Hi, I'm Tati. Let's talk about To All the Boys I've Loved Before, with spoilers. So this is my spoilery discussion video. I'm going to talk about all my favorite and maybe least favorite bits of To All the Boys I've Loved Before, the books and the movies, and it's going to be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movies and you haven't read the books, maybe go watch my spoiler-free review instead. But if you have watched the movies and read the books, or I guess if you don't mind being majorly spoiled for both of them, let's get into it. So let's start with my thoughts about book one. So in the first book, we are introduced to Laura Jean as a character, and I think really that whole first page that isn't even part of the first chapter, it's kind of like an introduction. It does an amazing job of that. That first line where it says, "I like to save things," is one of my favorite lines of the book because it shows such a big part of her personality, the nostalgia and romanticism that is threaded throughout the book series because the books are about Laura Jean. I have always really loved Laura Jean as a character, and part of Laura Jean is that she loves romance and falling in love, but she also does know that her fantasy version of it is not the same as the reality of it, and she is sort of afraid of the responsibility and reality of it, and that is a big part of this first book. And then we have the plot of this book sort of is Laura Jean and Peter's fake dating, which fake dating is a trope that I personally really enjoy, and something I really liked about it in particular in this book is that it allowed Laura Jean and Peter to become close before they started actually dating. And it allowed them to sort of like talk about stuff that they probably wouldn't have talked about if they were actually dating. They sort of went from like co-conspirators / allies to friends to close friends, then to dating. So throughout this first book, we get to see them becoming closer. And I guess a big thing of this book is supposed to be whether or not she ends up with Peter or Josh, but I never really thought she was going to end up with Josh. So a couple of my favorite Peter moments, I guess you could say, from the first book are like when Peter comes over when Laura Jean is making cupcakes, when Laura Jean has dinner at Peter's house. I love when Kitty and Peter first meet in the book, and pretty much any scene that has both Kitty and Peter in it is one of my favorites. Of course, we have the scene where Peter confronts Laura Jean about the letter and when she jumps him in the hallway. And then I really like in chapter 48, Peter is not technically in the scene, but in chapter 48, when Kitty and Laura Jean's dad are talking to Laura Jean about how much Peter likes her. When Kitty said, "He looks at you a lot, Laura Jean. When you're not paying attention, he looks at you to see if you're having a good time." Now, my other favorite element of this first book and the series in general is the relationship between Margot, Laura Jean, and Kitty. And the big thing in this book is that Margot is leaving for college. So throughout a lot of this first book, we see Laura Jean sort of trying to fill the space that Margot left. And that means she spends a lot of the book sort of comparing herself to Margot. She wants to be the best big sister possible for Kitty. Sort of at first she thinks that is being exactly like Margot because Margot was the best big sister possible to Laura Jean. But the relationship between Margot and Kitty is much different than the relationship between Laura Jean and Kitty, or even the relationship between Margot and Laura Jean. And that's why I really love that when Margot comes back into the story, when she's visiting home from college, that we get to sort of see both sides of that. We see Margot feeling left out because things have changed since she's been gone, and we see Laura Jean who sort of feels abandoned because Margot went so far away, but she also feels underappreciated for all the work she's put in since Margot has been gone. And there's a part in chapter 70, this line right here, on page 344 of the hardcover, in chapter 70, this one line, "There is a specific kind of fight you can only have with your sister." And then the preceding whole rest of the chapter is so realistic, and I loved reading it in this book. I just really felt like everything in this book series, the way it was written when it comes to having sisters, is super true and relatable. And I have always really personally loved the way this one ends, this first book. I know that it ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm sure I would have been upset if we never got the second book or even the third book, but there is just something really sort of hopeful and romantic about the way this one ends. I mean, it ends with her writing a love letter. And literally the last two words are "Dear Peter." So now, my thoughts on the first movie and how it compares to the book and all that in the context of spoilers. With the first movie, I do get that same feeling of gosh, just how much I love Laura Jean as a character. And they started off with a scene that is probably just the perfect way to introduce her as a character. She's reading a romance novel and fantasizing about her crush. And I also really love the way they introduced Kitty as she's interrupting Laura Jean's fantasy. Is that just like a foreshadowing for the whole series? Also, as someone who personally spends a lot of their time reading and daydreaming and also has 3 younger siblings, I can confirm that the scene is both realistic and a common occurrence. And here are a few of my favorite scenes. I tried to pick out only a few because I probably could sit here and list every single scene in the movie. But just so you know, Kitty is a bright spot for me in all of the movies. If a scene has Kitty in it, it's probably one of my favorites. Of course, the car scene where Laura Jean almost hits Peter with her car, that whole scene is like perfect. It would definitely qualify as a meet cute if they didn't already know each other. Kitty is so great in this part too, and then when Laura Jean says that they have to wait for the parking lot to empty, it's such a good scene. And then later we find out that like Kitty started her matchmaking plans for Laura Jean from that moment. I love it so much. And we have the Golden Girls scene, which I cannot skip over, mostly because I love the Golden Girls and I've also forced my sisters to watch it with me. And then of course we have the scene on the track. Honestly, from being confronted about the letter by Peter, to fainting, to seeing Josh, to connecting the dots that this means he also got a letter, then to kissing Peter in order to avoid Josh, that was some pretty quick thinking on Laura Jean's part. And then the part where they have fantasy Josh reading Laura Jean's letter in her room. I love the way this scene conveys not just the dismay of Laura Jean remembering what she wrote in the letter, but remembering it in the context of Josh having read it. And then when real Josh shows up and Laura Jean tells fantasy Josh that he's not real, and he says, "I'm more real to you than he is." And then Laura Jean goes right out the window, which is sort of ridiculous but also perfect for her character. Every scene where Laura Jean and Peter banter is a fun scene. The diner scene after their first party together, I'm pretty sure it's referenced in the third movie as like when Peter realized that he liked Laura Jean. It is a big turning point in the movie. It's where they connect over her feelings about her mom and his feelings about his dad. And then we have the scene where Margot finds out everything that Laura Jean has been trying to keep from her this whole time. The whole reason for all of this, Margot finds out anyway. And this is one of my favorite scenes. I like the scene in the movie even better than I like it in the book. I mean, yes, it's what Laura Jean has been dreading since the beginning. It is sort of her lowest point because she doesn't have Margot, she doesn't have Josh, she doesn't have Peter. But maybe I'm just a little bit like Laura Jean in that I like some fictional drama. And I cannot forget to mention the scene where Kitty comes clean about the fact that she sent out the letters. That's one of my favorite scenes. The fight that ensues is super realistic, I can tell you from experience. And then later, the scene where Laura Jean wishes somebody would write her a love letter and then Kitty comes down the stairs with all of Peter's notes. Perfect. And then we have the perfect romantic teen movie ending on the sports field with the big grand gesture, which is actually Laura Jean's big grand gesture. And there are, of course, a lot of like little things set up in this first movie that we then get to see sort of strung throughout and referenced back to in the following movies, which I'm always a sucker for things coming full circle, so I love that. So now, my thoughts when I compare the first book to the first movie. Let's just start off with Jenny Han's cameo because I love that she has a cameo in every single movie. In this one, she is a chaperone, teacher, principal in the flashback of the freshman homecoming dance. Now, a lot of my favorite scenes did make it from the books into the movies, like dinner at Peter's, for example. Now, I did already mention that I like the part where Margot finds out the truth better in the movie than in the books, and I can't really explain why, I'm not sure, but I do like it better in the movie. However, what I do like better in the book is the fight that ensues afterward. In the movie, they sort of skip over the fact that Laura Jean and Margot are angry with each other, and go straight to the heart-to-heart that happens at the end of the fight. In the ski trip, I haven't mentioned it yet because I don't really like that part of the book or the movie. It's not badly written or anything like that. It's just not one of my favorite parts of the story. I know it's where Peter and Laura Jean sort of get together for real for the first time, but it gets so twisted and all the consequences that come from that. Like, I understand how it's an important part of the story in both cases. It's just not a part I enjoy. Now, there are also a lot of little changes between the first book and the first movie, and there are a few bigger ones. One of the ones that I do like is Kitty's motive for sending out the letters. In the first book, Kitty sends out the letters because she's angry with Laura Jean. In the movie, she sends them out because she's trying to help Laura Jean. I mean, it was a bit of a misguided plan in both cases, but in the movie, like Margot says, her heart is in the right place. And all that being said, some parts of the first movie do definitely dip in to the plot of the second book, which I don't really mind. I think it helps the movie feel more complete, like it could stand on its own. Which brings us to the second book. P.S. I Still Love You. So this one starts out with Laura Jean's letter to Peter, which she almost doesn't even give him. I think my favorite part of this whole second book might be that part in the beginning where Laura Jean brings him the letter and then almost leaves without giving it to him, and then they fight over it. And then they make up, of course, but it's really that fighting over it, I think, that makes the scene. Now, I know the big thing about this second book is John Ambrose, who is a good character, and apparently a lot of people would have preferred for Laura Jean to end up with him. But I like Laura Jean and Peter together, and I never really thought she would end up with John Ambrose, because we just spent the whole first book getting Laura Jean and Peter together. Also, this book has a lot of Jen, or Genevieve, and when it comes to Jen, in the books, I don't love her character, and in both the books and the movies, the point is made that Laura Jean is the one who needs to get over Jen and Peter and Jen's past, and that is true to a certain point. But I do also think that Laura Jean was right about how much of a hold Jen had on Peter, and Peter needing to let Jen go to a certain extent. I do think that the second book is my least favorite of the series, which is just usually how trilogies go. But there are a few elements I liked in this book, one of them being getting to see Laura Jean as a sort of event thrower, and how she tries to make everything she does as special as possible. Then there's also a part on page 178, she describes letter writing. She says, "The act of writing a letter, of selecting paper and pen, addressing the envelope, finding a stamp, let alone putting pen to paper, it's far more deliberate. It's more romantic. A letter is something to keep." I really love that description of what letter writing or a love letter means to Laura Jean. I know in this part she's thinking about it in the context of writing letters back and forth with John Ambrose, but I couldn't help but think about the overall theme of love letters throughout the series when I read that. Now, when it comes to sisterhood in this next book, we see a lot more of the relationship between Laura Jean and Kitty than with Margot, because Margot's just not there to be part of the story most of the time. I do love one of her lines here though, when she says that Laura Jean is in love with love, and that's part of her charm. And that being said, I do really love Laura Jean and Kitty's relationship in the second book. One moment that comes to mind is Kitty's sleepover, when Laura Jean notices Kitty is feeling left out and she helps her with some big sisterly advice. Of course, I also really do love Kitty and Peter's friendship throughout the series. However, a scene I really, really love in this book is the cakewalk, because throughout Peter and Laura Jean's breakup, Kitty has sort of seemed like she's on Peter's side, but in this moment when it really matters, she sticks by Laura Jean. And another part that is in the running for my absolute favorite part of this book is the very end, Laura Jean's letter to Kitty. Now, originally, I do believe this second book was going to be the last book of the series, and that's why we have this letter at the end from a college-bound Laura Jean to her little sister Kitty, looking towards the future. And so this brings us to movie number 2, which, like the book is my least favorite of the books, the movie is my least favorite of the movies. With that being said, here are some of my favorite scenes from the second movie. I love all of Laura Jean and Peter's dates. They're super cute. Anytime Stormy or Kitty are on screen, I really love the part where Laura Jean gets her letter back from John and she reads it and then she freezes there and she thinks, I cannot believe I wrote that. I cannot believe he read that. I cannot believe he's downstairs knowing I just read what he read that I wrote. I really, really, really love Jen and Laura Jean's talk in the treehouse. The fact that Peter shows up because he knows she doesn't like driving in the snow and it started snowing is super cute. And I really love that realization she comes to in the end. I think it makes for a really nice end of the movie when she realizes that she was looking for a happy ending, but she's still at the beginning. And so that brings us to specific parts of the movie compared to specific parts of the book. And let's start off with Jenny Han's cameo, which is in the cafeteria on Valentine's Day. She is, again, I'm guessing a teacher. So something I like in the movie that we don't get in the books is Chris and Trevor's relationship. And the other thing that we get in the movie that we don't get in the books that I really like is the growth and development of the relationship between Jen and Laura Jean. And it all starts off with, well, it kind of all starts off with their fight in the bathroom in the first movie, which is in the first book. But then you have their discussion in the treehouse in the second movie that we don't get in the books, and it just leads to what is one of my favorite things about the third movie, and that is Jen's character development. And also the text that Laura Jean sends asking someone to meet her in the treehouse, and they don't show you who she's texting. That is a little twist for fans of the books if you haven't read the book, because in the book, the treehouse is where she and Peter meet up when they make up. So if you're watching the movie and you've read the books, that's who you're expecting to show up in the treehouse, probably. And so when Jen shows up, it's a surprise. I guess both for fans of the books and for just fans of the movies. There are only a couple of things that are in the book that I wish had made it to the movies. One of them being their fight over the letter, which kind of is what happens at the end of the first movie. But their fight over the letter in the beginning of this book is just one of my favorite scenes, so of course I would have liked to see it. And then also the game of assassins didn't make it from the book to the movie. We got the treehouse, we got the time capsule, but we didn't get the game. The only reason I would have liked to see it was because I would have liked to see that getaway car scene. And then some things that I noticed that were exactly from the book to the movie. When Peter and Laura Jean go out on their first date, and then after it's over, Peter asks her how her first day went, and he says, "Tell it to me like it wasn't me that took you." That is a direct line from the books, and a pretty great one. And there's also something she says at the end. I believe it's in like her narration voiceover at the end. She says, "I know now that I don't want to love or be loved in half measures. I want it all, and to have it all, you have to risk it all." That is literally from the last page of the book, and I just really love that. It's in both. It's in the very end of the movie and the last page of the book. Which brings us to book number 3, which is set, I think, about a year later, right as Laura Jean is getting ready to go to college. So about the time that she would have written the letter to Kitty that is at the end of the second book. And it really hit me this time around, rereading the books again in preparation for the last movie coming out. It really hit me how much this is Laura Jean's story. Yes, Peter has a big part in the story, but that's because he's important to Laura Jean. This book series is really about her. Of course, I love seeing Peter and Laura Jean's relationship grow throughout this third book. They are such a cute couple, and that's why it's kind of hard to watch their relationship implode again. And it got me thinking that maybe one of the reasons this book is my favorite of the series is because of the reasoning behind their breakup in this one. Because they break up pretty much once a book. But in this one, they break up because they're worried about holding each other back. And then focusing more on Laura Jean in particular, I love her character growth in this last book. I love that she decides after that one spontaneous trip with Chris to go to UNC. There's this line right at the beginning of chapter 25, and it says, "How crazy, how thrilling that your whole life trajectory can change in just one night." And I just really love that line because sometimes that's true. And Jenny Han really brought the line, that first line from the first book, "I'm a person who saves things," full circle in this one, which I love. I believe it's when she's saying goodbye to Chris. In chapter 39, it says, "I'm a person who saves things, I'll hold on forever." And it's so perfectly Laura Jean. Now, the family aspect of this book focuses a bit more on the fact that Laura Jean's dad is getting married. And while Laura Jean and Margot did feel a little strange about it, I really liked how they saw how happy Kitty was about it. That's a thing about the Song Girls, is that they always stick together and that they always try to the best of their ability to do what's best for each other, especially when it comes to Kitty. And if I have to choose favorite parts of this book, they're probably most of the parts at the end of the book. One of the parts I really love is in chapter 40. It's when Peter and Laura Jean are dancing at the wedding, and she thinks, "When I'm old and gray, I will look back on this night and I will remember it just as it was. We're still here, it's not the future yet." And I love this part because it just shows so much of Laura Jean's character development and growth. The fact that she is living in the moment. And then we get the story of their meet cute, which is of course made all the better by the fact that Peter remembers it even though Laura Jean doesn't. And so the book sort of ends with the story of how they first met. And so I really love the last line of this book because it's the last line of the whole series. And it says, "I suppose I'll say it all started with a love letter." And it's just perfect. It brings everything full circle, and it kind of makes it seem like this whole time it's just been Laura Jean telling us the story of her and Peter, which is kind of exactly what it has been. And that brings us to the movie. First of all, I just have to say I love that the movie opens up with them in Korea and that they spend a decent amount of time on that part of the movie, even though it's sort of like very quick beginning scenes. There was quite a bit of it, so I really enjoyed that. I love that Kitty met a boy there. There are so many little callbacks to the rest of the series, mostly I think to the first movie. Her phone background has stayed the same for all three movies. The diner, I Like Me Better playing when they go to New York, Fight Club, Chris mentioning jumping out of Laura Jean's window, and of course the hat box. Of course, all of Peter and Laura Jean's dates are cute once again. And of course, Kitty is still a bright spot for me. Any scene she's in, I love. A few favorites: when Laura Jean has to chase her out of the kitchen with a rolling pin. Also, when she confesses to Laura Jean that she didn't tell her about NYU on purpose. I also really liked how Trina stepped into her stepmom role in this movie. And a surprise favor for me in this movie is Jen. I never really liked her character in the books, but in the movies she gets so much more character development. Her and Laura Jean sort of patch up their friendship. And the scene in the school hallway, exactly the same place where in the first movie she insulted her shoes, here she compliments them. The meet cute thing between Peter and Laura Jean, I love it in the books, I love it in the movies. It also does make me kind of think that Peter has been a little bit in love with her since the 6th grade. And what is probably my favorite part of the movie starts like right about when they make up, so like after the wedding, when Kitty sends Laura Jean outside, and then all of that until the very end of the movie, I love. I mean, the fact that Kitty helps them get back together. I mean, when she's conspiratorially texting with Peter, it's perfect. She set them up in the first place. I love how what Peter wrote in her yearbook is like a little bit love letter and a little bit contract. It's perfectly them. And Laura Jean finally got her love letter, which she's been wanting forever. I'm personally a sucker for all the little details, like the fact that he signed it Always and Forever Peter, and the book is called Always and Forever Laura Jean. The signing of the contract and the handshake just goes back to the first movie. And I really appreciate how much of an ending they gave us for this movie, because, you know, it could have ended with them dancing in the tent. That felt like an end. But then we get graduation and a montage of moments leading up to them leaving for college, and then like even them sort of arriving, and with Laura Jean's iconic voiceover over everything. The fact that the last words of the last movie are the words love letters. I just love that so much. And of course it ties in with the last words of the last book, because they're literally love letter. And then even going beyond that, I personally love the montage of clips from all three movies that plays during the credits, because I'm the type of person, if I read something that I really love, or I watch something that I really loved, or even sometimes just that I liked, I immediately want to go back to the beginning and start it over. And so that was kind of that in miniature form. Now it is really hard for me to choose a favorite out of the three movies, because I love a beginning, a good beginning. I love it. That's why I always go back to reread and rewatch things from the beginning once I get to the end. However, I could not have asked for a better ending, as I have been gushing about already. So it's a very hard choice, but if it really came down to it, I think I have to go with the first one. And that's only because it can stand on its own. Like, I feel like I could watch the first one as its own movie, get to the end, be satisfied. So let's start off the specific book to movie comparisons, again with Jenny Han's cameo. She is the principal in the flashback of Peter and Laura Jean's meet cute, which is just perfect. Out of all of the movies, I do think that this movie might be the most different from its corresponding book. And that being said, they're all very close to the movie, so the fact that it's the most different still doesn't make it that different. Now, I already mentioned this before, but I think maybe my most favorite thing that is different about the movies than the books is Jen as a character and her character development and the growth and mending of her relationship with Laura Jean. And I really love how in both the movie and the book, Laura Jean's character development is shown through her decision of where to go to college, because she goes from living in fantasies and memories and fearing change in the future to realizing what a privilege it is to be excited about her future, which is not to say that she still does not, you know, daydream or have fantasies or is afraid of the future or holds on to memories, because she does. And now there's that scene where Kitty tells Laura Jean how much she's going to miss her when she goes to college. And it's pretty similar in both the book and the movie, but I do think I like the movie just a tad better in that scene. So in the books, their breakup, like I mentioned, is more about not wanting to hold each other back. In the movies, I felt like it was more about them just being afraid that they wouldn't make it long distance, which I guess is similar, but I still felt like there was a little bit of a difference there. And like the treehouse scene in the second movie, the wedding was a bit of a twist, because in the books, Peter does go to the wedding and that's where he and Laura Jean make up. But in the movie, he doesn't even show up during the wedding. He shows up afterward. And another one of my favorite book to movie things, near the end of this third book, in chapter 39, Trina and Laura Jean are talking about, you know, what happened between her and Peter, and Trina and Laura Jean's dad. And Trina answers, I don't know. I think I just decided. Decided on what? Decided on him, on us, on all of it. And this really reminded me of the line that Laura Jean is thinking, or it's in her voiceover at the end of the third movie, when she says, but I do know that love, real love, is choosing each other through all of it every single day. And of all the lines that made it from the books into the movies, I do think "I'm a person who saves things, I'll hold on forever" is my absolute favorite. And so those were all of my thoughts about To All the Boys I've Loved Before, both the books and the movies. I am sure that despite how very, very long this video is, there are some things that I left out, so definitely let me know all of your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss. If you liked this video, please give it a like. I have new videos just as soon as I can get them up, which is usually twice a week, so subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye. It's gonna be weird no matter what I do. Let's check for sound and if I will be in focus and how it looks, because I'm still tweaking the new angle. I'm not sure if this angle is like prettier than my other angle, but it sure does give me a lot more room to play in. This video is gonna be so long, I decided to put costume changes in it, so we'll see how that goes. That's an airplane. I wonder if you can hear that, because I can. This doesn't make any sense. My dog is barking so much at the moment because there's a package outside and he sees every package as the enemy. And this is the part that I always mess up, even when I was trying to write it down. So throughout the story, please don't do that. She is the principal in the... Oh, I did just... Oh my gosh, I just had a heart attack. Okay, I didn't know if it was recording. Let me just say what I wrote, because that is more clear. Come on, my voice is giving out. I only have a little bit left of this video to film. All right, that is it. We are done.